I peeked through the blinds and found Deborah Whitfield's Lexus wedged inside my garage, blocking my own car completely. She'd used my garage as her private parking pad for 3 weeks straight, and today I finally slammed the door shut with her inside.
I'm Maya Chen.
Single mom. Nurse. Raising twin boys in a quiet cul-de-sac I'd saved 5 years to afford. Deborah ran our HOA like a fiefdom, finding neighbors for mailbox colors. We'd hide. Even holiday lights left up too long. She targeted me since I moved in, calling my boys' bikes on the lawn an eyesore lowering property values. My detached garage sat empty most days since I parked my sedan on the street for extra space. Deborah noticed. She started borrowing it, claiming HOA business justified access to any resident's private property. One Tuesday, I found her Lexus parked crookedly inside, keys still in the ignition, garage door wide open. "It's temporary," she said, breezing past me with a clipboard. The board needed extra parking for inspections. I asked her to move it immediately. She smiled and said she'd get to it eventually. 3 days passed. The Lexus stayed. My own car sat exposed to hail warnings on the news. I called the HOA office. The receptionist laughed nervously and said, "Deborah doesn't really take direction." I texted Deborah photos of hail risk, demanding she move the car by Friday at the latest. She replied with a single line, "Careful, Maya. Fines can be creative around here." Friday came. The car stayed. My sedan got dinged by a hailstorm that night, right on the street. I filed a formal complaint with the HOA board, attaching photos of both my damaged car and her trespassing vehicle. The board meeting was packed. Deborah stood up first, painting herself as a selfless volunteer helping struggling residents. She twisted the story, claimed I'd offered my garage out of community spirit, then reneged out of spite. Several neighbors nodded along, clearly intimidated by her long history of retaliatory fines against anyone who disagreed. I tried to speak. She cut me off, citing meeting procedure she'd apparently invented on the spot. After the meeting, an elderly neighbor named Frank pulled me aside, whispering that Deborah does this to everyone eventually. "She parked in my driveway for a month last spring," Frank admitted. "I was too scared to fight her." That night, I found a fresh notice taped to my door, a $150 fine for improper garage usage. The absurdity hit me. Fined for not letting her park inside my own garage. I appealed the fine. The HOA's appeal form required Deborah's own signature for approval. Of course, she denied every appeal that crossed her desk, especially mine, without ever reading it. My co-workers started noticing my exhaustion. "Just tow the car," one suggested. "It's trespassing. Plain and simple." I looked into towing. Turns out board vehicles had quietly been shielded from towing under revised bylaws. Deborah had rewritten the rules to protect herself, a detail nobody but the board had ever noticed. For a week, things went quiet. Deborah left the car but stopped leaving notes or fines. I almost believed she'd backed off, focused instead on my son's school schedules and overtime shifts. Neighbors mentioned Deborah seemed distracted, busy with special HOA financial reviews nobody could quite explain. I should have known quiet meant she was planning something bigger, not surrendering the fight. The next Saturday, I came home to find my garage locks changed, replaced with an HOA master lock. Deborah left a note. "Board decided your garage is now shared community storage. Deal with it." I called a locksmith immediately, refusing to let her erase my property rights with a padlock. Before he arrived, Deborah pulled up, blocking my driveway with her Lexus again, smug and unbothered. "You can't touch HOA property," she said, gesturing at the lock like she owned my house. I recorded her on my phone, calmly stating the garage belonged to me, not the HOA. She lunged for my phone, missed, then threatened to file a harassment complaint against me instead. The locksmith arrived, cut the lock in under 2 minutes, exposing the flimsy authority behind her claim. Deborah screamed that I'd destroyed HOA property, despite it being my own garage door the whole time. That evening, I discovered old HOA financial records left carelessly in a folder inside her parked Lexus. The numbers didn't match public reports. Thousands funneled into an account labeled only special projects. My hands shook as I photographed every page, realizing Deborah's power grabs weren't just about control. This wasn't pettiness. This was Deborah quietly draining the HOA fund while blaming residents for shortfalls. I remembered Frank's driveway story, the appeal forms, the changed bylaws, all pieces of one scheme. Deborah needed access to specific garages. Mine included to stash records away from board audits. My garage wasn't random. It was her hiding spot, chosen because I was too busy to notice. The twist hit me cold. I hadn't been her target out of spite. I'd been convenient. I copied every document that weekend, backing files up to 3 separate drives before returning the folder untouched. I contacted a former board treasurer who'd resigned abruptly last year under mysterious, unexplained circumstances. She confirmed my suspicions. Deborah had pressured her to approve unexplained withdrawals before she finally quit. Together we compiled a timeline, matching missing funds to dates Deborah borrowed specific residents' garages. I scheduled a meeting with the county's HOA oversight office, evidence folder tucked under my arm. Deborah, unaware, texted me demanding garage access again for one more weekend. Urgent board matter. This time, I said yes and quietly planned exactly how her weekend would go instead. I arranged for the locksmith to install a new lock, one only I controlled, timed for Friday night. Friday evening, Deborah pulled her Lexus into my garage exactly like every time before, confident and entitled. She stepped inside to grab a folder, calling out, "I'll just be a minute. Don't wait up." I closed the garage door the moment she was inside, sealing both her and the car in. I loaded my kids into the sedan, waving cheerfully as her muffled shouts echoed from behind the door. "You can't do this," she screamed, pounding on metal, realizing too late she was truly trapped. I texted the county oversight officer the garage address, the evidence files, and Deborah's exact location. Then I drove my boys 3 hours away for our long-planned camping trip. Phone switched to silent. Saturday morning, officers arrived at my house, responding to the emergency call I'd scheduled in advance. They found Deborah surrounded by her own incriminating folders, unable to explain the stashed financial records. Neighbors gathered outside, filming as she was escorted out, still insisting she'd done nothing wrong. Frank showed the officers his own fine notices, proof of Deborah's pattern of intimidation across the neighborhood. By Sunday, local news picked up the story, HOA president trapped amid embezzlement scandal. My phone exploded with messages from neighbors, thanking me for exposing what everyone had feared to challenge. Deborah faced immediate suspension from the board, pending a full county financial investigation into missing funds. I returned home Sunday night to find my garage finally empty, sunlight pouring through the open door. The HOA held an emergency election. Residents voted overwhelmingly to replace Deborah with someone finally accountable. Frank became interim treasurer, promising transparent records and an end to arbitrary fines for good. My garage is mine again, and every neighbor now waves instead of wincing when they see me.